For quarter 6, we are going to start working on the margin to improve our performance. We are very familiar with the mental discipline of our marketplace simulation at this point. We are full in the mix of looking at the feedback from the marketplace and analyzing the environment to redeploy and change our strategy. Your strategy at this point is probably pretty fixed and will only be changing at the margins. So you really need to shift your focus on the tactics. Adjust your tactics to improve your performance. Things that you should be thinking about at this point is you already started negotiating in quarter 5 with other teams in regard to potential licensing of R&D. You probably invested in quarter 5 already in certain technology that leads to improvement of your designs. Now it's really high time to think about whether you want to license technology to certain teams. So the things that we are going to deal with in our presentation right now is licensing technology, managing your strategy, using tools of management, improving resource productivity, very important, as well as borrowing money to improve opportunities and keeping an eye on the balanced scorecard. So let's consider licensing technology from or to a competitor. You can either be a licensee or you can be a licensor. Well, you have lots of opportunities in brand design at this point. It is now a question, and hopefully you already addressed it in quarter 5, whether there is a way for you to multiply your resources. Multiply your resources by working with other teams that develop a certain technology for which you don't have money but you need, or you developing a technology that others really want and would be willing to pay for. So in other words, you can sell technologies for more than what you paid, or you can buy technologies for 50% or less of the cost to develop themselves. And given that you probably want to develop multiple technologies, this might be a good way to really increase your resources. What it also does, it's developing the market more quickly by being able to offer more of the satisfying features that you know the market wants and that you now can afford by working with others. There are 2 ways to go about it. You can either license out, so you can be team A, for example. You invest in, let's say, more memory, design a new brand. You invested in more memory in quarter 5. You design a new brand in quarter 6 and license to team B. Team B is the licensor, the licensee. And when in quarter 7, the technology is ready, you receive income from them and they receive the memory for the paid fee. You can also do cross-licensing, which is what I just talked about before, where you invest in memory as team A. Another team, let's call them team B, invests, let's say, in a bigger hard drive. In quarter 6, you design the new brand where you bring the investment of memory or hard drive to bear. And you make a deal. You make a deal with B. You are A. You are team A. You make a deal with team B, licensing them the memory that you developed. At the same time, team B licensing you the hard drive they developed. And when I say pay fee, I only say pay fee in case the value of the different projects is vastly different. Usually there is no fee involved since you do a cross-license agreement, but there might be a negotiation because one is so much more expensive than the others that there is still a potential fee involved. You really need to start looking at it from a game theoretical perspective, and we are talking specifically about the prisoner's dilemma, where when you both work together, you have a more positive outcome than one works against the other. And you need to really find the team where the negotiations are fruitful because they are mutually beneficial for both parties. The question is competition or cooperation. Strategic alliances with competitors might really benefit your development in the market. Let's talk about the management of strategy. You need to discover the causes of potential performance shortfalls. And if that's the case, you need to adapt to new opportunities as well as really figure out what to do with the problems that occurred in the last quarter. You should really think about managing the future. Take the initiative now and expend the resources that will shape the events and opportunities of the future. Don't be timid at this point. Of course, you always have to be careful about your cash cushion, but investments now, which is pretty much the last time for you to do it to reap the benefits by quarter 8, will bear fruit in quarter 8 or by quarter 8. SWOT analysis, we all know what it is. Make sure that you look at the market feedback to find out your strengths and weaknesses. Figure out where the market is going. These would be the opportunities and threats. Look at your employee productivity data. Are you better than others? Are you not? Look at your manufacturing reports. How do you do in regard to your efficiencies? How do you do in regard to your reliability? Look at your financial statements. And look at the financial ratios for the industry and see where you are better or where you need to improve. In addition to that, profitability analysis is really important at this point, given the fact that if you have profits, you can reinvest. And that means, of course, you have a stronger competitive position. Look at not only the financials, but also look at the marketing benchmarks. Look at your brand and ad design, compare them to others. Look at your prices and sale priorities and see what others are doing. Your channel strategy should be really, at this point, very synchronized with your marketing strategy. Is your sales up to par? Is your staffing up to par? Are you overstaffed? You need to figure this one out. And also make sure where your ads might be less effective than others, as well as where you should put ads in to improve your sales. And one of the most important parts is look at your demand by brand, by segment, and compare it to others. You might find opportunities. The goals of competitive benchmarking are, of course, that you're trying to reverse engineer the strategy of other competitors. You need to figure out who is a threat, who is not, who can you work with strategically or not. You need to really figure out what are the strengths and weaknesses of your competition and see whether you can swoop in. Try to emulate other companies' good decisions. And you can at this point also predict competitive moves and direction in the future, because they're doing the same thing you do. And with that, you adjust the strategy and tactics as a reaction to competitive strengths and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities and threat that you predict in the next 2 quarters. For your internal executives that look at resource productivity, it's really important that you at this point know what the elasticity of the market response function is for each of your decisions. If you had another $500,000, where should it be spent? Should it be spent on more advertising, more salespeople, lower prices, more R&D, more sales outlets, more capacity, better compensation? We really need to figure out what a potential investment internally would actually get us, as well as what it would get us if we do more advertising. The response functions understanding is crucial at this point. And of course, you have to improve the productivity. How can we get more out of our current investments? You need to do a real margin analysis. Should we hire more salespeople in Paris, New York, or other places? What is the margin that we generate in each of these areas? Should we hire more salespeople for one versus the other segment, brand segment? What is the margin that we have in one versus the other segment? Should we expand sales offices or should we expand web marketing? What seems to be doing the trick? Should we add more advertising in new venture magazines or trade journals? What's the trick here? What are the benefits, the effectiveness of our ad strategies? If we increase salary, health benefits, or vacation time, what is our return on investment? Will it actually make the efficiency so much better, effectiveness so much better that we are going to have a positive net effect or not? If we increase our price, will our number of units sold make up for the decrease in margin? If we increase our price, will the potential loss in units be less than we increase in our margin when we multiply units times price? And of course, we need to look at the capital structure. Should we go into more debt with banks? Should we work only off the internally generated funds? Would the firm's return on investment be better with the addition of debt or without it? What things can you do to make more money? Should it be with the addition of debt? Because the cost of capital, that means the cost of interest, is more than offset by the additional margins that you create. That's the analysis that you have to go through. And then, of course, you have to also figure out what is better for you, short-term or long-term debt. In addition to that, you never forget to look at the balanced scorecard, because in the end, that's the overall performance measure by which your performance for the firm will be judged. And you probably at this point looked at the formulas quite a bit. So you really need to figure out what your levers are and how the levers affect your balanced scorecard scores. So in other words, in your team meetings, when you make final decisions, you should think and manage multidimensionally, not just unifunctionally. And you really need to drill down in the balanced scorecard analysis to find the sources of your weakness and look at your strength and maybe so that you can improve it. So, as I said before, your business acumen will be judged by your cumulative performance over the last 4 quarters, starting with 5 and ending with 8. And we all know that the financial performance, market performance, marketing effectiveness, investment in the firm's future, human resources, the creation of wealth, asset management, and manufacturing productivity are your driving levers for the balanced scorecard. So go ahead, work on the margin to improve your performance.